They say every love story starts with a spark. Mine started with a picture on the wall, our wedding day, smiles, champagne, a white dress, a promise. I remember how he looked at me back then like I was everything, his whole world. But life changes slowly, like warm water turning cold. Now, when he looks at me, if he looks, I feel invisible. It didn't happen in one day. At first, he worked late. Then he stopped asking me how I felt. Then he stopped touching me.
We still shared the same bed, but it felt like a cold sea between us. His back always turned. He used to kiss my neck in the mornings. Now, he barely says goodnight. I tried to stay strong. We had 2 kids, a mortgage, a history. But deep inside, I was starving. Not just for love, for touch, for a look, for the feeling of being wanted. I didn't want to cheat. I didn't want another man. But I wanted to feel alive again. It started at school. My daughter forgot her notebook. I went back to bring it, and that's when I saw him, tall, broad shoulders, soft smile, talking to his son near the lockers. He turned, saw me, and smiled. Not just a polite smile, something else. Something that said, "I see you." I didn't expect it. But I felt my chest warm, my throat tighten. We ran into each other again the next day, and the next. Always at school, always casual. "You're Olivia's mom, right?" he asked, voice low and calm. "Yeah," I said. "And you're Liam." That was all. Simple, but the way he said my name, slow, careful, like he was tasting it. And I liked it too much. At first, it was small talk, kids, weather, PTA meetings, but there was something else under it all, a silence that spoke, a tension between every word, like 2 people on the edge of something, and both afraid to jump. One afternoon, he walked me to my car. The parking lot was empty, cold wind, gray sky. I dropped my keys. He bent to help. Our hands touched, and I swear, it felt like electricity. He looked at me, eyes deep, unreadable, and I felt my breath catch. For just a second, the world stopped. I told myself it was innocent, that I was just tired, that I was imagining it. But that night, in bed with my husband, his back to me as always, I thought of Liam, the way his eyes stayed on mine. The way his voice dipped when he said goodbye, and the worst part, I wanted to think about him. The days passed, and every time I saw Liam, the tension grew. We didn't touch, we didn't flirt, but our eyes said everything. I started putting on perfume again, fixing my hair, wearing the dress that made me feel seen. Not for my husband, he didn't notice, but Liam did. One day, he leaned closer to show me something on his phone. His arm brushed mine, nothing more. But I felt it for hours. I was walking a line, one step from falling. It wasn't physical, not yet. But in my heart, something had already shifted, and I knew I was in danger. Not from him, but from myself. Mini cliffhanger ending, part of hit them sewn. That night, Leo sent a message. Just 5 words, but they burned into me. "You deserve to feel wanted." And when I read it, I realized I was already falling. CTR, SEO, keywords, inseritos, forbidden desire, emotional affair, betrayal story, heartbreak, toxic relationship, regret, married woman, sexual tension, cold marriage. He sees her craving touch. The hunger grows, almost crossing the line. After Liam's message, I couldn't sleep. "You deserve to feel wanted." His words echoed inside me. They weren't just kind, they were dangerous. They touched something I'd buried, a hunger, a need, a craving to be touched, desired, devoured. I stared at my ceiling that night, my husband sleeping next to me, his body far, his warmth gone. He didn't notice the tear on my cheek, or the way I curled away from him. He hadn't noticed me in a long time. The next morning, I wore lipstick, just a soft red, nothing obvious. I told myself it was for me, but I knew the truth. Liam saw me in the hallway at school. His eyes flicked to my lips, just for a second, but it felt like a touch. He said, "That color suits you." I smiled, but my heart was beating too fast. That kind of fast you feel in your thighs, not just your chest. He didn't look away. I didn't want him to. We started finding reasons to talk, to stay near. He would bring me coffee during school events, text me silly things, memes, songs, quotes. Always harmless, always almost. But it wasn't harmless to me, because I would check my phone late at night, waiting to see his name light up the screen. Waiting to feel that little rush that made me forget how lonely I felt in my own bed. One afternoon, I dropped by the school early. I said it was to pick up forms. He was there too, waiting for his son, alone. We sat on a bench outside. It was warm, quiet. We talked about movies, books, childhood, laughed about silly things. But all I could think about was the way his knees brushed mine, casually, then again, not so casually. My body felt electric. My skin was awake in a way it hadn't been in years. His voice dropped lower when he said my name. I felt my breath catch. He looked at me, serious now. "You're not happy, are you?" I froze. No one had ever asked me that, not even my husband. I didn't answer. I couldn't, because if I said it out loud, it would be real. That night, I tried again with my husband. I wore the dress he used to love, the black one, tight at the waist, soft on the shoulders. I lit a candle, made his favorite pasta. He came home, tired as always, kissed my cheek without looking. During dinner, I reached for his hand. He pulled away to check his phone. I asked how his day was. He shrugged. Same. That was it. Same. That word echoed louder than any scream. After the kids went to bed, I waited in our room, the candles still burning. He came in, changed clothes, and turned on the TV. I stood there in that dress with hope in my eyes. And he said, "Can we not tonight? I'm really tired." I nodded, but something inside me broke. The next day, Liam sent a voice message, just a whisper, if I were him. I'd never look away. I listened to it 3 times, then again. I could almost feel his lips on my neck as he said it, even though I knew he wasn't near. At the next school event, it happened. We were in a small side hallway, quiet, empty. Everyone else was in the auditorium. He leaned close to show me a picture on his phone. "Something funny," he said, but I didn't laugh. I was too close. His shoulder brushed, I smelled his skin, clean, warm, a mix of cologne and something just him. His hand moved, slow, careful. He didn't too, but I felt it. That invisible thread between us, and I looked up. Our eyes met deep, still heavy. He leaned in, not enough for a kiss, but enough to tell me he wanted to. And I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But I stepped back, fast, breathless, afraid. "I have to go," I whispered. He didn't stop me, but he didn't look away either. And as I walked away, I could still feel his eyes on my back, like hands, like a question. Mini cliffhanger Pada had things sewn that night. I didn't sleep. Not because of guilt, but because I knew. One more second in that hallway, and I would have said yes. And once that line was crossed, there was no going back. The real betrayal, the truth that burns, the guilt was starting to fade. Not because what I felt for Liam was small, but because what I had at home was even smaller. And then I found the first crack. It was a Tuesday morning. I went to wash the sheets. I picked up my husband's jeans from the floor. His phone fell out. I picked it up just to place it on the dresser, but then it buzzed. A name popped up. J. Just a letter. Nothing else. No emoji. No photo. Just J. I felt my stomach drop. A small, cold panic crawling up my spine. The message preview said, "Still thinking about Saturday. Saturday, he told me he was working late. He came home tired, smelling of hotel soap. I remember asking, was work okay? He nodded, kissed my forehead, and went straight to bed. I told myself, don't open the phone, but my fingers didn't listen. I unlocked it, and what I saw changed me. I miss your touch. Your wife doesn't know. Next time, bring the red tie. I read those words 3 times. Each time, they cut deeper. My breath turned sharp, my hands cold. This wasn't suspicion anymore. This was truth. He had someone else, maybe more than one. I sat down on the edge of the bed. Everything around me became still, silent, like the world had stopped breathing. How many nights had he come home, kissed my children, ate the food I made, and smiled at me while living a second life? I felt like I was in a movie, a bad one, like I was the background character in my own story. That night, I didn't mention the messages. I watched him closely. How easily he lied with his eyes, how comfortably he chewed his food, how he asked me how my day was, like he cared. I smiled. I laughed at a joke he made, but inside, I was on fire. Later, when he went to the bathroom, I went back to the phone. There were more messages, pictures, a dinner receipt from a hotel in the city, a woman's perfume name saved in his notes. He had a whole world I didn't know. And I'd been here wondering if wearing lipstick for Liam made me a bad wife while he was living in complete betrayal. I felt something shift inside me. All the guilt I had carried melted into rage. Not loud rage, not violent, but cold, clean rage. The kind that makes your vision sharp. The kind that makes you whisper, not scream. I walked to the mirror, looked at myself. For the first time, I didn't see a weak woman. I saw a woman who had been lied to, ignored, pushed aside, and now awakened. The next day, I didn't cry. I didn't SC. I dressed slowly. I wore the red lipstick again. And when I saw Liam at school, I didn't avoid hi. He said, "You look different today." I smiled. "Do I?" He nodded, quietly, stronger, dangerous even. He wasn't wrong, because now, this wasn't just a temptation. This was about power. That night, I lay in bed beside my husband. He fell asleep quickly, like always, but I didn't. I turned and looked at him, and I realized I didn't want him to touch me again. Not because, but because he didn't deserve it. He had already left. He just forgot to tell me. Mini cliffhanger part. I hit them so, and I closed my eyes that night with one thought burning in my chest. If he can live a lie. And suddenly, the line I swore I'd never cross started to fade. Emotional infidelity, cold marriage, crossing the line, the first touch, it was raining that day. A soft, steady rain, the kind that makes the world feel quiet. School had ended early. Most parents rushed to their cars, but I stayed behind, helping the teacher with some paperwork. Liam was there too. He had volunteered for something. He always did. When we left, the parking lot was almost empty. Gray sky, wet pavement, that smell of rain, and something new in the air. He walked with me to my car. I didn't speak, neither did he, but everything in me was screaming. When we reached the car, I turned to say goodbye, and then it happened. He reached up gently. His hand brushed a wet strand of hair from my face. His fingers lingered on my cheek, warm, slow. I didn't pull away. I didn't want to. Our eyes locked, and in that moment, I forgot everything. My marriage, the lies, the pain. There was only this: his eyes, his hand, my breath, my need. He stepped closer. No words, no permission. But I didn't need any. His lips touched mine, soft at first, like a question, then deeper, stronger, like an answer I'd been waiting for. I felt his hands on my back, firm, sure, pulling me in. My body responded before my mind could catch up. The cold from the rain disappeared. All I could feel was heat. The kiss didn't last long, but it felt like forever. And when it ended, we both just stood there, breathless, shaking. I looked at him, his wet hair, his lips slightly parted, his eyes dark with hunger. I had never felt more seen, more wanted. Then came the voice in my head: "You crossed the line." But another voice whispered louder: "He made you feel alive again." And that voice was the one I chose to listen to. That night, I didn't go straight home. I drove around, let the rain hit the windshield, let the silence hold me. I replayed the kiss over and over. My fingers touched my lips like I was afraid the memory might vanish. But it didn't. It burned into me, like truth, like fire, like sin I didn't want to wash away. When I got home, my husband was on the couch, TV on, phone in hand. He barely looked up. "You're late," I nodded, said something about traffic. He didn't care, and I realized he had no idea what I had just done. He was too far from me to feel it, too far to even notice the shift in my eyes. That night in bed, I turned away from him, but my body was still warm, my heart still racing, and in my mind, I wasn't with him. I was back in the parking lot, in the rain, with Liam, his breath, his touch, the way he made me feel like a woman again, not just a wife, not just a mother, but a body, a soul, a fire. I knew what I did was wrong, but I didn't regret it, because for the first time in years, I felt desired, not needed, not tolerated, wanted, and I wasn't ready to let that go. The next day, he sent me a message: "I can still taste you." I read it slowly. Then I smiled and whispered to myself, "So kan I." Mini cliffhanger para hetan som. I told myself it was only a kiss, that I still had control. But deep down, I knew. The moment I kissed him, I had already made my choice. And now, there was no turning back. 2 worlds, 1 body, 2 lives after the kiss. I thought I would feel broken, guilty, ashamed, but I didn't. I felt awake, like someone had finally opened the curtains after years of darkness. Like my skin remembered how it felt to be wanted. And Liam, he didn't pull away. He didn't disappear. He didn't say it was a mistake. He said, "I've wanted to do that since the first time I saw you." And I believed him, because I had wanted it too. We didn't make love, not yet. But the days that followed were heavy with it. With the unspoken hunger between us, every time we talked, our voices softened. Our bodies leaned in. Our eyes spoke in silence. One day, he brushed my hand as he passed me in the hallway. Just a touch, quick, but it left heat crawling up my arm. That night, I laid in bed and touched myself in the dark for the first time in years. And I didn't think of my husband. I thought of Liam, of his breath, his hands, the way he looked at me like I was the only woman in the world. And I didn't feel guilty. I felt alive, but life doesn't like to stay quiet. One evening, as I cooked dinner, my husband watched me more closely than usual. His eyes narrowed, not with affection, with suspicion. "You're smiling a lot lately," he said. Anything I should know? I paused. A part of me wanted to scream, yes, I kissed someone who sees me. Someone who makes me feel like a woman, not a wall. Someone who doesn't forget I exist. But I didn't. I said nothing, just stirred the pasta. He walked away. The next day, Liam and I met in his car. We didn't plan it, it just happened. It was parked far from the school. The windows fogged with silence. He touched my thigh gently, his fingers slow, respectful but curious. He asked me, "Are you sure you want this?" I looked into his eyes, and I said, "I've never been more sure of anything." He leaned in. We kissed again, longer, deeper, hotter. But this time, I wasn't just a woman needing comfort. I was a woman choosing desire. His hands moved to my waist, mine tangled in his shirt. We didn't undress. Not yet, but our breathing filled the small space. My whole body buzzed. It wasn't just lust, it was freedom. Later that night at home, I sat across from my husband at dinner. He looked at me like a stranger, and for the first time, I realized he didn't know me anymore. He had stopped trying to know me years ago now. He was noticing the cracks because someone else had started filling them. He asked, "You've been different lately. Is something going on?" I looked up, met his eyes, and I said, "Maybe I'm just remembering who I am." He blinked, didn't answer, because he didn't know who I was anymore. In bed, he tried to touch me that night, his hand on my hip, cold, mechanical, like he was checking if I was still his. I froze, my body stiffened, because now I knew the difference. Between being touched out of habit and being touched out of hunger, I turned away. "I'm tired," I said. He rolled over without another word, and in the dark, I whispered to myself, "You should have touched me when I still wanted you." Mini cliffhanger part ahead and sewn. I lay there with two lives burning inside me. One built on duty, the other built on desire, and I knew soon I'd have to choose. But until then, I was hers at home and his in my mind. The storm breaks, secrets no longer safe. It happened faster than I thought. Secrets always feel safe until someone opens the wrong door. That morning, I was still glowing. Liam and I had spent an hour together in his apartment. Nothing wild, nothing rushed, but it was real. We kissed like we needed air. We held each other. He made coffee. I wore his shirt for the first time in years. Someone made me laugh after touching my body. That's how I knew. This was more than sex. I came home humming, soft, light. The sun felt warmer. Even the silence of my house didn't hurt until I saw his face. My husband, standing in the living room, holding my phone. His jaw tight, eyes cold. He didn't speak. He just held the screen toward me. A message was open. From Liam, "I'm still thinking about last night, about your skin, about how you taste." The floor beneath me disappeared. I didn't deny it. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I just looked at him and said, "I didn't mean for you to find out like this." His voice was sharp. "How long?" I didn't answer. He asked again, louder. "How long have you been fucking him?" His words hit like ice, so cold, so angry, but I had nothing to defend. I just whispered, "Long enough to remember what it feels like to be a woman." He paced the room, like a lion trapped in a cage, yelling, breaking the silence, throwing blame like knives. "You cheated, you're disgusting, you destroyed everything." I took it, every word. But inside, a strange calm was growing, because finally, the truth wasn't hiding anymore. He grabbed my arm hard, not enough to hurt, but enough to remind me who he used to be. I pulled back, looked him in the eyes. "Don't touch me like that. Not anymore." Something in him cracked. He He stepped back, said nothing, and for the first time, he looked small to me. Not strong, not powerful, just a man who let his wife disappear while he was busy with his own secrets. That night, we didn't speak. He slept on the couch. I lay in bed alone, but I didn't feel lonely. I felt light, like a mask had been ripped off, like the house was finally honest, cold, broken, but honest. Liam texted me, "Are you okay?" I stared at the message. My fingers hovered, then I typed, "He knows. Do you need me?" I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, typed back, "Yes." The next day, my husband asked, "Are you going to see him again?" I said nothing. He shook his head. "You're throwing everything away for what? Some fantasy?" I smiled and said, "No, I'm letting go of a fantasy to finally live something real." I left the house that afternoon, not forever, not yet, but enough to breathe, enough to see Liam, enough to feel safe. In his arms, I cried for the first time, not because I was weak, but because for the first time, I didn't have to be strong. He kissed my forehead, whispered, "You don't have to carry this alone anymore." And I believed him. Mini cliffhanger, part a hit then sewn that night. As I lay in Liam's bed, my body still trembling, my heart finally still, I knew the storm wasn't over. But now I had someone to walk through it with. The choice, stay, leave, or lose everything. The next morning, I came home early, before the kids were awake, before the silence became heavy. He was in the kitchen, making coffee, like nothing had happened, like the night before was a dream. He didn't look at me, just poured 2 cups. "We need to talk," he said. I sat down, my hands around the mug, still warm, but I felt cold. "We can fix this," he said. "We don't have to ruin everything." Everything. That word again, his job, our house, the birthdays, the mortgage, but not us, never us. He didn't say, "I miss you." He didn't say, "I love you." He said, "What will people say if this gets out?" That's when I understood. It wasn't about me. It was about the image. The perfect couple, the smiling Christmas cards, the clean kitchen, the shared bank account, the vacations. But behind it, nothing. No intimacy, no touch, no truth. "We can go to therapy," he offered. "Start fresh." I looked at him, and for the first time, I didn't see my husband. I saw a man afraid of being alone, not a man in love. Later that day, I met Liam, not in secret, not hiding. He brought me to the park, somewhere open, somewhere real. He held my hand, didn't let go. He looked at me with eyes that didn't ask for permission. Eyes that said, "You don't have to be small anymore." He said, "I'm not asking you to run away, but if you choose me, you're choosing a life with no masks." That scared me, because lies can be comfortable, familiar, predictable, but truth demands sacrifice. I went home, stood in my closet, looked at the dresses, the heels, the wedding photo on the shelf. I remembered the woman I used to be, the one who thought love meant staying, no matter what, no matter the pain. But that woman was tired now, tired of waiting, tired of pretending, tired of nights with cold hands and quiet mouths. That night, we sat in the living room, no TV, no kids, just 2 strangers on a couch. He asked me, "Are you going to see him again?" I didn't lie. Yes, his face twisted. "So you're just walking away from our life?" I looked at him, really looked. "No, you walked away from me a long time ago. I'm just catching up." He stood, silent, wounded, proud, but he didn't stop me, didn't say stay, didn't fight, just walked to the window and looked outside. That night, I told the kids I'd be staying at Aunt Clara's for a few days. A trial separation. I didn't mention Liam. They didn't ask. They just hugged me tight. And for the first time in a long time, I hugged them back without guilt. Because I wasn't running. I was becoming honest. Liam met me at the door. He didn't smile. He just opened his arms, and I walked into them. No words, just breath, warm skin, truth. We didn't make love that night. We just laid in bed, his chest under my cheek, his fingers tracing slow lines down my arm. And in that silence, I knew this is what peace feels like. Not excitement, not lust, just truth and presence. Mini cliffhanger para retenção. I still didn't know the future, but I knew this. I couldn't go back to a life where I felt nothing. And if that meant starting over with nothing but truth and touch, I was ready. The mirror, letting go to begin again. The sky was pale gray that morning. Not stormy, not sunny, just in between like me. It had been 2 weeks since I left. 2 weeks of quiet mornings, of coffee with Liam, of waking up without pretending, but also 2 weeks of questions, of guilt, of missing my children's voices echoing in the hallway, of staring at the wall at night and asking, was this freedom or just another kind of prison? I stood in front of the mirror, no makeup, no mask. I studied the woman looking back at me. Her eyes weren't tired anymore, but they weren't innocent either. She had scars now, but she also had strength. She had lost a marriage, but found herself. My phone buzzed. A message from my husband. The kids miss you. Dinner Sunday, not cruel, not loving, just expected. I replied, of course, because some ties never break, but they change. And I had changed too. That Sunday, I returned to the house. The same walls, same smell, same memories. But it didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a photo album, something you visit, not live inside. The kids ran to me, their hugs tighter than ever. Their little arms around my neck felt like forgiveness, like they understood without understanding. He was polite, distant. We sat at the same table, the one where we had eaten 1,000 meals. But this time, the silence didn't hurt. It felt clean. No tension, no lies. Just two people who had finally stopped pretending. As I walked out, he said, "Are you happy now?" I turned, looked at him, really looked, and I said, "I'm not happy, but I'm honest." And that's a start. He didn't reply, but I didn't need him to. That night, back at Liam's, he was waiting for me on the couch. No pressure, no questions, just presence. I sat beside him, put my head on his shoulder, and whispered, "Thank you for seeing me." Before I could see myself, he kissed my hair, didn't say anything. And in that silence, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. I don't know what happens next. Maybe Liam and I stay together. Maybe we don't. Maybe life surprises me again. But now I know I won't disappear again. I won't settle for cold kisses, or silent dinners, or being touched like a chore. I am a woman who has been broken, betrayed, desired, loved. I've tasted lies, and now I want nothing but truth, even if it hurts. If you're listening to this and you feel invisible, please hear me. You are not wrong for wanting more. You are not selfish for needing touch. You are not weak for leaving what hurts you. This isn't just my story, it's ours. So if this touched something in you, subscribe, comment, share this video. You never know who's living in silence, and maybe your story is just waiting to begin.